Right. Welcome, everyone. My name is Debbie Page. I am Baltimore County Public Schools Birth to Five Family Support Liaison, and joining us this evening to talk about a very, very important topic of self-care, especially in this season. But I want to welcome Casey Mouton, who is with us all the way from Hollywood, California. She's a licensed marriage and family counselor.
Okay. So, hi again. It's nice to meet you all. My name is Casey Mouton. I'm a California-based licensed marriage and family therapist. And I'm also a special needs parent. So that is my son in the photo with me. He's 4 years old now. When he was 10 months old, he had a stroke and it completely flipped our lives upside down. Overnight, I was kind of thrust into the special needs world and was figuring out so much for our family, for him, for his care. Um, I think also for many of us, we have to just immediately start advocating. And so that was something that I had to take on and grow into. And I've been a therapist for several years now, specializing in parent mental health and maternal mental health. And since having this experience with my son, I definitely have started to focus more on supporting parents of children with special needs because I, even as a therapist myself, was kind of shocked by how little support there is for us. And so I'm hoping to provide more of that. If anything today, I want you to all walk away maybe just feeling a little bit more validated or a little bit more understood, or that I've normalized maybe some of the feelings that you've had during the holiday season or as we get ready to go more into the holidays. And like the slide says, I'm going to talk a little bit about the pressure and expectations, the additional layers of invisible work that we all often take on, and then talking about grief and this idea of coping ahead that I really subscribe to, and boundaries, and then self-care. And like I said, please feel free to interrupt me as we go into this. So I think that all of us could agree that the holidays are really marketed as a time for joy and tradition and connection. And I know for a lot of special needs parents, the reality of the holidays includes overstimulation, lack of support, changes in routine, judgment from relatives, even. And I really want you all to hear this, that nothing is wrong if you feel like the holidays are hard. They are objectively harder for families like ours. I know the first holiday season that I experienced after my son's stroke, I cried majority of the time. I really struggled to understand how I could take my life experience that I had just been through and then try and be happy during this time where it felt like everyone is happy and celebrating. And I've gotten much better over the years of allowing my grief and joy to coexist together during this time of year. But again, if it's hard, that's totally okay. And I would say very normal, like I said, for families like ours. So I think something that I view maybe as a little like taboo sometimes in the special needs world is talking about grief. And I really try to normalize that grief can be a feeling that we all experience. I think, like I said, grief and joy can coexist. Just because you're feeling one doesn't mean that the other is discounted. And I think the holidays especially can bring up a lot of grief, and not necessarily the grief of loss, but maybe the grief of comparison, the grief of what we imagined maybe life would look like or be, the grief of watching other families do things our children maybe struggle with. And now I sound like a broken record that grief can exist right next to joy. But holding both of those things is very human, and it certainly does not mean you are ungrateful. I always say that my grief is very dynamic and it comes in waves. Sometimes it feels very quiet, sometimes it feels very loud. Um, and it shows up more recently. I could say my son's preschool had a Thanksgiving event that they did where all the children like got up and sang and participated, and that kind of thing is really challenging for my son. So I knew that I was joyful to be there with him in the capacity that he could be, and then I also gave myself permission to feel like, yeah, I'm a little sad that it looks different for us, and that's okay. So really holding both of those things. So I think it's important to think about, okay, maybe we start to notice the grief, or even after today, maybe you're able to name that it's grief that you're noticing or feeling. Um, and just doing that, just naming it, can sometimes reduce the intensity of it, and allow space for it and to show it compassion. um, Adjusting expectations is not giving up, it's adapting to reality for many of us. And we can give ourselves permission to modify traditions, to shorten activities, to create sensory friendly versions, or start new rituals entirely. So you're allowed to build the holidays your family actually needs. I know something that has been so monumental to my grief process has been being in a support group with other moms of children with, oh, I'm so happy to hear that. Um, with other children, sorry, children are not in the support group, with other moms of children, that would change the dynamic greatly. With other moms of children who have children with special needs. And we all kind of have a different situation. There's children that have different genetic disorders. There's some moms who have children with autism. There are moms like myself who have children with physical disabilities. And just to come together in that space, we meet once a month, is, I actually say, it's been paramount to my healing to be able to talk with other moms who get it. And there are moms who have children who are like preteen age. And then I think now the youngest child, the mom has a child who's maybe 2. And so we all kind of are at different phases and stages. And we cry, we resource, we just talk about how hard this can be sometimes. And then we also celebrate wins in big ways. And it feels so good. And I always think about this. I don't know if any of you listen to Anderson Cooper's Grief podcast. If you ever need to facilitate a cry for yourself, I highly suggest it because you just can't listen to it without crying. I think it's an incredibly beautiful and moving podcast. And it's really allowed me to become more in touch with my grief. But there was an episode where they talked about grief as far as like how um, community can help the process. And they gave the metaphor of, have you ever been in a snowstorm, which I'm sure you all have, and I have very little experience in. But have you ever been in a snowstorm driving, and maybe it's, very like it's hard to see, but you can see the taillights of the car in front of you. You can just make them out, right? They're really faint, but they're there and you're following them. And I think that's how parents are for each other in the special needs community. It's like there's someone ahead of you who can guide you, who can help you, who can reach back. I have never met kinder people than people in the special needs community who are so willing to get on the phone with me, to talk about something, to tell me this worked for my son. I tried this therapy and that was so helpful. I think there is so much love and care in this community. And so I really encourage you all, if that's something that you're listening to me preach about this and thinking, how do I find that? What do I need to do? Please reach out to me. Let's find you that community. Let's find a way to get you in a room or on a Zoom with other parents who get it. But also just having conversations in your community is a great way to kind of meet and find out what's going on.
See, for our groups that meet weekly too of parents, many of whom are here and who join us weekly, and we know we have a tradition of sharing golden nuggets, and that's how we start
Mm.
every meeting, and it means a lot um, to celebrate each other and our children, and to enjoy them and brag about them, and
Yeah.
yeah, and have that space, and then also to know that if we are struggling and we are having a hard time, that everyone in that room understands that we don't love our child any less. They understand exactly what that feeling is to be like struggling and not complaining, like, as
Yes.
you know, and say like they accept it for what it is because they know it because they feel it.
I love that, and I hope that, this can be an invitation to you all to really be open to community and other parents because, like I said, it's so healing and helpful. And again, if anyone has anything they wanna share as I go through this, any thoughts about grief, um, please do so. Um, okay, so I always use this phrase with clients, this idea of coping ahead. And I'm going to apply it to how we can navigate things with our families, but also how we as parents can cope ahead. And so, what would coping ahead look like for your child or your family? And that means anticipating hard moments or challenges before they unfold. So, asking yourself a couple questions like what historically has been hard in a situation that's similar to this? Is it transitions? Is it crowds? Is it family? Is it the travel? So figuring that out and then asking yourself, okay, how can we plan ahead and cope ahead? And on the next slide, I'm going to share what I call like a coping menu. And I also will send a handout to Debbie after this that has this information on it so you all can use it if you need it. But on the coping menu would be emotional tools, practical supports, emergency strategies. Um, you can have scripts ahead of time for tough moments, like how to exit something early or redirect unwanted comments. You can prepare your child ahead of time with visual schedules, sensory kits, social stories, just ways to reduce stress for everyone. And then how I use coping ahead as a parent is not just in holiday times, but say I'm going into like an IEP meeting or, and sorry, now I'm dodging sunlight, an IEP meeting or an assessment that's coming up, something that I know is possibly going to be hard on me emotionally. I'm going to go into that saying, okay, I know the moment this meeting ends, I am ordering dinner from my favorite pizza place. Or the moment this meeting ends, I know I'm going to go take a uninterrupted 10-minute walk around the block. Or I'm going to get in the shower for 5 minutes and just have a release. Or I'm going to call my best friend on the phone. Like it's preparing and planning ahead of time. So that you have a care plan for yourself because this stuff is hard. I know just simply like going into a situation, giving myself permission to leave early has been a coping ahead tool for myself of like, okay, we'll go for 10 minutes. We'll see how it goes. If that feels okay, then maybe we add 10 more minutes. And then I just take it moment by moment. Um, I don't, I really try not to get ahead of myself, but I think having tools in place like this can be really helpful. And let me show you the little menu I have. And it's formatted horribly because I put it on a slide. Um, but so here you'll see it's asking the question, what our family needs most this year, What are the top stressors that you expect? What's your plan to reduce stress? That's just a little checklist. Some communication scripts we can join for a short time. That tradition doesn't work for us, but here's what we can do. Or we're keeping things simple this year. And then having a little self-care menu for yourself. So what are some things that you can do? Breathing exercises, uh, life support like meal shortcuts, asking for help, trying to have maybe a day during the week where you don't have any plans set up. And then also, what's your emergency plan if things starts to escalate? Do you have a safe word? Do you go outside momentarily or go in a different room and ground yourself? Do you need to simplify or cancel plans? Connect with a support person, whoever that might be to you. And like I said, I'll send that worksheet out after this. Okay, my favorite thing in the world is saying no. I love saying no, but I think to get to a place where I could feel comfortable saying no took a lot of practice and encouragement. And it can be really uncomfortable to say no, but I think it's one of the most important tools that we have. And like I said, I think we can sometimes feel guilty saying no. There's the fear of disappointing others. But I think when you reframe it, that saying yes can be something that steals energy from somewhere else, and that usually it's us, it maybe allows you to feel a little bit more comfortable saying no. Um, and having boundaries are not selfish, they can be life support. And I use this phrase with clients when I'm talking about implementing a boundary, and that oftentimes when we implement a boundary, there's something called like the afterburn, which means usually after you set a boundary or put a boundary in place, it can feel really icky. And you can start to be like, oh no, why did I do that? It feels really bad. I'm worried they're mad at me. It's almost like coping ahead for the afterburn of a boundary. And kind of just talking to yourself like, okay, I know that this doesn't feel good right now, but I know that it's giving me the energy so that I can show up for our bedtime routine, or I can show up for XYZ, whatever I know is most important and matters to my family. And then some of the sample scripts I like to use are saying things like, that doesn't work for us this year. We can come for an hour. We're keeping things simple this holiday. I mean, really, I would love to say you don't owe anyone a justification, but I think it can be as simple as that, is like, hey, this is what works for us this year. Okay, so Debbie and I talked a little bit about this before, but I think like when we think of self-care, a lot of times we think, oh, that I have to go to a spa for 8 hours a day, and who is that realistic for? Nobody that I know. I one time had a therapist say to me, never underestimate the power of lighting a candle. And I wanted to say to her, we are so far past candles. Like I need like an exorcism. I need like, I don't know what I need. I need intravenous something, but lighting a candle is not going to cut it at this point. I need way more than that. So self-care can be so many things. Like all we care about is that it is restorative, that it allows for support, that it allows for rest. It's systems, it's boundaries that make life more livable. And like I said, it can include rest, it can include saying no, it can include delegation, connection, asking for help, making a doctor's appointment for you, um, just having systems in place that reduce chaos. And I always think too that self-care is like a little piggy bank or something that we have, right? And it's like you don't have to make large deposits. You can be making small deposits all of the time. that are going to be part of this bigger picture of you feeling cared for.
The sun in my face.
It's about, like I said, putting things in the piggy bank, because I think the first signs that I often see with clients, as far as knowing that like self-care needs to be, there needs to be like a reinvestment or a small deposit. I see a lot of rage. I mean, I've definitely felt that before when I know that I'm really depleted. I will start to feel anger. I will start to feel resentment. And that to me is like a signal to check in with myself of like, okay, yeah, I haven't given myself enough time. I haven't given myself enough space or rest or whatever it might be, or I really should ask for help around this task. This is my realistic self-care. So when that woman told me to light a candle, I also wanted to say to her, like, you, the women of Salt Lake City, do more for me than any candle ever could. So I will watch reality TV. I will go outside. I will eat pizza. I will listen to podcasts that make me laugh. Um, those are like the fun parts of self-care that I engage in. I think you have to let yourself like have a little bit of lightness, whatever that means to you. Then I think, of course, right, there's more of these kind of like traditional things that we can do, that we can think about. Okay, the mind body connection. How can I regulate myself? Doing something like nervous system resets, where you, I don't know if any of you have ever done a body scan before, or like a progressive muscle relaxation, but you essentially go muscle by muscle through your body, tensing and releasing, breathing through that. I imagine in the winter, where you all are, stepping outside for 30 seconds is almost a little bit like doing a cold plunge. So I would feel like something like that could be a very easy, well, there you go. We're not into candles in this presentation. So no candles for any of us. Breathing, doing box breathing, if any of you are familiar with that. Energy protectors, which is something like I said earlier, committing to one plan-free day each week. Doing 10-minute blocks of time where you're able to reset. So that could include stretching, taking a shower, listening to music, sitting in silence, whatever is going to replenish you. Thinking about environmental supports, so creating low sensory zones in your house, ordering pre-made food. If you can use a delivery service for something, use it. Reducing tasks, reducing decision fatigue. Like, this is the time to be doing that. Time protectors, so limiting extra commitments. Just because something is offered to you does not mean you have to say yes. And building buffer time around therapy sessions or outings or transitions to avoid overwhelm. Emotional supports. So even just asking yourself, like, what do I need right now? Do I need, again, do I need to call a friend? Do I need to do something that's going to make me feel cozy? Do I need to scream? What do you need to do in the moment? Making sure that you're connected with a parent group or one trusted support person that you can talk through some of this with, and then just giving small breaks throughout the day. So these micro care moments are what allow us to continue to build resilience, can prevent burnout, especially during high demand times, like what this time of year means for many of us. So when it feels like too much, I think, especially as special needs parents, we have moments where things can feel incredibly overwhelming. I think it's important to think about, in California, we all have like earthquake kits in our car. So having something like that, almost like, what's your earthquake kit? Wow, can't say that. Earthquake kit, which would be like your emergency plan. So can you have one grounding tool? There's the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 sensory tool that I use with a lot of clients, where it's, can you look around and notice 5 things that you can see, 4 things that you can touch? Are there 3 things you can smell? So running through that as a grounding tool. Is there one person to call? Is there a phrase that a partner or a family member that you guys can have that they can tag in, and then having an exit plan? And I think also just remembering that like meltdowns and hard times are not failures, they're information. Like maybe that's telling us something like, okay, yeah, this was too much for the day. And so now I know the next time we're in this situation, I can cut it 5 minutes shorter, or I can adjust and do this. We're learning and we're getting information.
There's Latoya commented in the comments, sometimes I feel I'm too far gone and overwhelmed to recover or restore. It can feel like life will just always be hard as crap.
I completely understand that feeling. And I think that's where I kind of try to not think about it big picture. Try to think about like, do I have 5 minutes today to do something that would feel good for me? When we try to think about like, oh my gosh, I have 75 things to do on my to-do list and I need to start eating healthier, or I need to do this or that. What could you do for 5 minutes today? And like I said, even if that's sitting in silence, even if that is taking a shower, doing something for yourself. I think hopefully trying to address it in a micro way might feel a little bit more manageable. And also, you deserve this. Like, you deserve self care. You deserve to rest and recover and experience restorative time. Um, we all do. And I think the hard thing is that when you're a special needs parent, like our needs are at the bottom of the totem pole. We put everyone before us. We put our kids' needs before our own. And I've oftentimes felt with my son, like I'm not just a parent, I'm a nurse, I'm a physical therapist, I'm an occupational therapist, I'm an advocate, I have all these extra roles that I'm taking on. And so I know that it's so imperative for me to do things to release some of that burnout, because I'm kind of like the manager of the show. I have to take care of myself to be able to show up for my son. And again, it's not about big moments, it's about small things. And maybe the small thing you do for yourself is showing up to the community parent support meeting that happens. Um, yeah, but I'm sending you a big hug. Okay. So I think the other things to think about um, as we near the end of this are, how can we recenter the holiday season? So, how can we let go of perfection, letting go of the idea of the perfect holiday, choosing sustainability over spectacle, asking yourself what matters most to my family this year? What can we release in the name of peace? And I love this idea of like, what is one thing that you can say no to? Thinking about what is one thing that you can say yes to, um, and just giving yourself some compassion. I think that's really important this time of year as well. Um, so, again, I think you all deserve rest, support, compassion, not later, not once things calm down, but right now. So I really, really would love you all to think about what is one thing that you can say no to this season, and one thing that you can say yes to that will support your well-being and your family's well-being. Um, and I'd love to keep the conversation going in the time that we all have here today. If any questions come up, that is my information below. Please reach out. You're welcome to email me. You are welcome to send me a DM on Instagram if that is easier to communicate that way. But like I said, I think the community support of special needs parents, like I'm so happy to have a conversation with anyone, connect anyone with a resource if it comes to mental health in any way. Um, I know that for myself, being in my own therapy, I am on medication. I take an antidepressant. Like those things have been so important to my well-being, navigating everything that has happened with my son and continuing to be the best version of myself. So I also just want to destigmatize that getting help is a good thing and so necessary. But please, if anyone has any questions or thoughts, I'd love to chat with you all now.